It's frustrating. It's frustrating. this is like the normal default. That didn't, people weren't being malicious, but this is the normal sort of human default we get in coding together. We need to make some tweaks to that. So in Sprint, we would get everybody working alone in the same room together, but working alone. So instead, you'd have these 4 people, and they would think quietly about their ideas. And their ideas might be thin at first, but they'd have the time to think through and turn those ideas into a full-fledged solution. And then, instead of talking about the solutions, they would commit those solutions to paper, so that they actually didn't have to explain it verbally, and if they weren't as good at putting it on paper. And then in the end, everybody could just look at the solutions. And we found that was a much more effective way to get a competition of ideas, to get people working deeply, quietly, to get to those important things, that important work that so often got put off or was just addressed in a shallow way, in a 30-minute meeting, or a 60-minute meeting, or an email that you dashed off before you ran to the next thing. Now we were doing less, much less, and the sprint was just one thing and doing it really well. Another important default is that most business these startups were doing happened online. Most of their interactions with each other happened online, and in the sprint, we got them to go offline and have these conversations in person or mediated by writing on the wall, Huge effect on what was accomplished, huge effect on their ability to focus. Instead of trying to do everything at once, instead of all those context switches, the team was just doing one thing at a time. So in the sprint, the whole team is focused on building one prototype, and we're solving the problems together. You don't have to jump in and out. They don't have to wonder what's the most important thing for me to do today. It's all sort of scripted. They have a plan. They know what matters each day. So in 2016, having run so many of these experiments with the sprint, feeling like it was effective, blogging about it a bit, and having some teams pick it up and start to use it, we wrote this book called Sprint, and the process really started to spread. So it had begun at Google with those few teams at Google, and then through Google Ventures started to spread to the startups in the Google Web. And as I started writing blog posts about it, other tech companies began to pick it up, and now with the book out, it started to spread through agencies and more traditional, larger companies, and even schools and other kinds of organizations are just in the beginning of picking this up. And this is a very new idea, design sprints, very new. It's just really starting to catch on. If you're in this room and you've tried a sprint before, you've done one, like you have to be on cutting edge. It's a very new way of working, and it's hard. It's actually a very hard thing to do. You have to convince a team of people to cancel what they're doing for a week, do something else, do this new weird checklist of activities. It's hard to do, but it's spreading because focusing on what matters, changing those defaults, is really powerful. When you change the defaults, and you start to focus on what matters and give more attention to what matters, you have these radical results. So it is worth the pain in the ass. This idea of sort of redesigning the work week, it is a hassle. It does require a whole team.